Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Second Lap. It's your host, Gramps. I am out walking in a different part of town. I'm working on having better experience with the live. And so I actually walked about 45 minutes to call it my normal destination so I could start here, which is more rural and maybe give me a better experience. 38,331 miles as of now. I was starting to tell Ronnie earlier, my chart shows January through June, a small, slight increase in mileage each month as the months went on, with the only exception being February when I drove to North Carolina and drove back and had a lot of call it car time. So I did a blip there. But otherwise, I'm growing like a business would be growing. And it almost looks like I'm getting back into the walking of the circumference. So I don't know if that's something to do with the podcast or not. Today, I'm welcoming a new guest. Chris Lucy and I have known each other, man, I want to say it's 15 years or close to it. If not, we used to work together in a capacity, and he lived in Oklahoma City, and he has moved, but we'll get into that. Welcome Chris Lucy to the stage, please.
Yeah, thanks, Rob.
Hey,
Appreciate you
welcome.
inviting me.
Yeah, super excited. Your text out of the blue, we hadn't talked in a while, out of the blue was, hey, let me know if you might be interested in me coming on the podcast. And I was like, this is a breath of fresh air, Chris, because mostly the hardest part of this expedition is getting people cornered and then set up and then finding a time that we can get on the thing and talk. So you being so willing to be accommodating was just a breath of fresh air. So thank you. I'm grateful for you being here.
Yeah, absolutely, Rob. I mean, we got some interesting stories. One that just popped up, and I met with a gentleman this past week called his name is Sean Vandergrip, and
Okay.
you and I and he had an intersection in a transaction like 20 years ago, and he remembered it, and I was like, what a small world we live in.
Oh, it is. And I actually talk about you all the time. So you may or may not feel your ears getting warm. I give you credit. Your description of how, and it's not something that I created, the pregnant pause, but your description of that being a capacity that I had and that you were impressed with how it worked, and it allowed me sort of to understand, hey, I'm doing this thing that's sort of, I think I learned it from my dad. I learned it from all the sales trainings that people don't like silence. Like, people want to fill silence. And
Mm-hmm.
if you give them an opportunity, they will fill the silence. So it works really, really well when you see the lips. It's not so good when I'm doing a spaces on X and nobody can see anybody. And I almost have to hum or make some sort of like tick so that they know I'm still communicating. Or tell them, hey, I'm going to pause it for dramatic effect, so I can't have a scary movie going. And I always reference back to you as being the guy that sort of identified that as my tick.
I don't think it's a tick. I mean, I think we recognize tradecraft, and I think that it was something I recognized that all too often people, when they're nervous or put themselves in a position where they think they should be nervous, are very afraid of those pregnant pauses. And I think that if you don't allow people to think and allow them to process the information that you're conveying to them, I think that's a mistake. And yeah, so early in my career, you were a professional that I ran across that had kind of figured out, whether intuitively or not, or taught, you'd really, implemented a piece of tradecraft that made you much more effective than your peers. And so it stood out to me. So I just, why not compliment, good tradecraft when you see it?
That's great. No, I as I said, I appreciate it because if you don't know, you don't know. And so I didn't realize there was a term for it. And so I've gotten really deep into it. And I do it now, as I said, as long as they can see my lips, I'll try and see how long I can drag that silence out. anyways, it was good times. Oh, excuse me. You lived in Oklahoma City. That's where we met. It
Hmm.
was call it 15, 20 years, as you were saying ago, where we crossed. You'd moved over to AT&T at the time, and I think you had left Sprint, if I'm remembering my history. And I'm walking as I do this, so I have to watch out for the
Cars.
the cars. Yeah, they're thousands of pounds, and they don't seem to have
No.
problem with me. Um, anyways, you were in Oklahoma City. One of the things I was going to ask about, you've moved to another part of the country.
That's
What what
right. Just
what? Yeah, what drove that?
a lot of things. So, family,
Okay,
my profession, politics. I mean, just a number of things just intersected at the same time. So, Rob, you may not recall, my wife and I are both military brats, and we met in college in Oklahoma, and that's where we began our careers and our family. And very much loved the local community we were in, and the pandemic happened, and we had kids with high risk medical conditions, and just that was just a terrible several couple sets of years, and I had gotten to the point where I was in leadership at AT&T, been there 16, 17 years, and an opportunity between our families in general. So as you know, having grown children and having grandkids. I think we're still here. We got a like and subscribe button that popped up. I'll continue talking. So there we are. Um, there just was an opportunity. Like, could we all live together in the same state, raise our kids and grandkids? I have two adopted kids that are younger, still in
right.
school, and then have the older ones that are both married and have, daughters themselves. And so there was just an opportunity for me to say it was time to take a sabbatical from corporate America and
Okay,
relocate all of us out to the Triangle in North Carolina. We love it here. We live in the same neighborhood as our oldest daughter and her husband and kids, and the younger daughter and her husband live up in Cary. And so it's just been a kind of hit the refresh button. I did think that, when I resigned from AT&T, that they would, they said, hey, once you get settled in North Carolina, call us back. And I took 4 months off. We took the boys and toured all up and down the East Coast. Got to take them to a ton of historical locations. Working in corporate America for 27 years, had never had a break.
right.
You have vacations, but not like unplug. And I was unplugged. It was a weird feeling. And after about 4 or 5 months, I knew, healthcare benefits were going to run out. It was time to find another employer. And um, I had a supplier that said, hey, we're very interested in your skill set. And so I joined a company called Apex Systems. That's a
Okay,
large IT and engineering services firm, and they've just rebranded to a company called Everforth. And I am their technology executive for all of their telecom clients. So I spend my day solving problems for AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Charter, Optimum, Hotwire, and just lead our efforts from an executive standpoint on what technology solutions we're delivering for those large telcos. So, yeah, that's what I do. It's still in the same role, and we're rolling with the technology as it continues to evolve on a daily basis, which is an increasing pace, as you might know.
oh, for sure, for sure. So I'm going to back up. So in the pandemic, you started that in Oklahoma, and
Mm-hmm.
then once the dust had settled, was it 2022 when you got to North Carolina? What year did you?
20, 23, 23.
23, 23. So
Yeah,
you guys
we
got
were kind of
there,
couple of our kids were kind of having to live in holes, because there wasn't really any precautions taken for kids with, immune compromised systems. And
right?
so the oldest daughter has the most issues. And so we knew we had to get her out of the state. She had to get to a healthcare system that still had protocols in place.
Right.
So she caught COVID in 22 and subsequently had heart failure. So she's living with congestive heart failure now. So
Oh,
it's just
wow.
better to be in the healthcare system out here that's and we see the evidence almost on a quarterly basis with just
Right.
different things where it's like, oh, wow, they didn't catch that for 13 years in Oklahoma and they read the report once in North Carolina and caught it. So the quality of healthcare is it's tangible. It's not like
Right.
an opinion. You can literally witness it. Yeah.
Um, I hear you, and that I mean that makes a lot of sense. And I was going to say my brain, because my ADD is still there, and I'm still fully the guy that you knew years
Right.
ago. Did
Yep.
you live through Helene?
Uh, yes, but it was the western part of the state. So we're kind of on the eastern side. It kind of missed us to that side. So, but yeah, a lot of effort from this part of the state had to go and fly in. It was a pretty substantial mess, and
Okay.
a lot of tempers in this area around the federal government and the lack thereof of their response. And but the state was impressive. Like it was nice to see the local state houses do quite a bit to support it financially, but from the federal perspective it was really really pretty bad. So it's still there's still damage up there, but yeah, I mean, it took out I-40. I mean, it took out a major nationwide interstate, so it was pretty bad.
I'm impressed, or not impressed. I was going to say I've seen that, and I'm impressed with how they've gotten traffic moving again. And at the same time, when you look over and you see that, I don't know, it feels like it's maybe a half a mile or a mile there of like 3 or 4
Washed out.
lanes that just they're all gone. It's gone.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like just gone. It's like, man, Mother Nature just took it.
Well,
I was gonna say I
we
knew
did,
you were on
we
the
actually
west.
don't take that path. I mean, I don't know exactly where you went, but we go up 81 into Virginia and then drop down into Winston-Salem because it's a smoother ride than going through Asheville.
Okay. My kids are in Asheville, so we have to go
Oh,
there.
yeah, yeah, you don't have a choice. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've got 2 daughters that are there. One going on 10 or 11 years, and one that's about 3.5 years. So, and she just got engaged. So we will have a permanent pin in the map in the North Carolina area.
It's a beautiful area, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It's great. And I don't think I'm allergic to as many things as I'm allergic to here. So for me, I almost get uh I don't know, a break from my Flonase.
You
You're
know, we noticed the same thing, and I couldn't figure it out at first because there's more things that bloom here than
right.
bloom in North Texas or Oklahoma. So my conclusion is this, non-scientific. The wind is always blowing in North Texas and Oklahoma, and it rarely blows here. So I think it's just a matter of the amount of pollen that gets blown at you. I don't think it's the amount of pollen in the air. So
Okay.
there's way more things that bloom in the Raleigh area than Oklahoma City, and we love it because we can spend 9 months of the year outside here and not have any allergies. It's bizarre.
Yeah. Okay. Then it's not just in my mind. I was going to say I'm the same way. When I'm there,
I
I
don't think
seem
so.
fine. Interesting. And I had the same hypothesis that there's more things that bloom here. Why am I doing better? But you're right, not windy. Like it's not windy like it is
It's
here.
not windy. No.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
I never really paid attention to that. That's interesting. Um, you did you
so Robbie's in a bad spot with coverage. Sounds like something I should probably be helping him with. We'll see if he's able to make it back to the show. That's what happens when you're mobile in a populated area. There he comes. It was a hard handoff. He didn't make that switch from one site to the other.
did you see that? That was crazy.
I
The
don't
whole
have your audio
application.
now, Robbie.
I wonder if is it me?
I want to know if your producer just loves the fact that you decide you're going to do your show mobile walking around outside.
That's
He
part of
must
the
have thought,
shtick.
could I get a more complicated, you know, customer
Oh,
than Robbie? You won't sit still in the studio. Won't connect
Ron,
in the fiber
Ronnie just said that he took credit for it. I was
out
gonna say
there
I
on
don't think I
that
did it. And
neighborhood millimeter wave spectrum.
hey, Ronnie, I don't think you can
You're
hear me.
still muted. I can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm not muted.
You want me to rejoin? What do you think the problem is?
Maybe. Um,
Is that Ronnie's message to you or a message to me? All right,
you.
gotcha.
I'm assuming you can still hear me, Ronnie. That's why you suggested him. I appreciate everybody that's watching us live. I hope you're enjoying the show. And this is not AI driven because AI would have smoothed this out for you. At least that's the expected outcome. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, sir. I got you.
Oh, awesome. We're still trying to figure it out. You're a technical guy, so I'm going to hit it with you and you can think about it. And if you come up with an idea, let me know. We have these issues like when we start the podcast and I bring you on, or when we have a glitch in the matrix like this where something will happen and the guest, it's usually not my side, the guest will not be able to hear audio. And the only way to reconnect is to bounce out. I had hypothesized most people have been using these, and therefore I thought it was maybe that chain of a chain of a chain or something that was causing you not to hear, but you're not wearing earbuds, are you?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. So you didn't
Didn't change
experience. Okay.
anything. Mm-mm.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
I'll follow up afterward, Robbie. I'm not terribly familiar with StreamYard, but I think it's probably something to do with kind of the firmware layer of the equipment on this end when the audio drops out on the other side. So I
okay.
got guys even smarter than me. I'll be like, hey, spin up Claude code and figure out what the heck's wrong with StreamYard.
Oh, I love it. Hey, let's take a turn. I was asking you about your boys. Like I was curious if when you were going to be an empty nester, but um we've kind of is there how many more years do you have until your boys are graduated?
So 2 more years on the
Two.
youngest.
On
And
youngest. Okay.
he's absolutely on a trajectory. He'll probably get an academic scholarship, so he'll be good to go. It's the 18-year-old, due to his intellectual abilities, probably will never be, out of the home.
Okay.
So we're working with, and that, he's another part of the reason we're here. We're working with social services here to get him into a work program or a trade program. And so he's, for whatever reason, he's fascinated with motorcycles, which is like the last thing a parent wants a kid excited about. So
Right.
Carolina Community College has a motorcycle repair, like academic program where they teach you hands-on how to repair them and build them. And so he's shown a great interest in that. So we've applied to get him going to school there. But we're like, hey, listen, buddy, that doesn't mean we're buying you one and letting you loose out on the street. We're just going to fulfill that desire of yours with that hobby. So that's kind of the path for him now. And the
Okay.
goal with him is always the goal with him has always been love him and support him to be the best version of whatever it is he can be. Not put limits on that, but not put expectations either.
Right. No, that's great. Have you guys thought about dirt bikes? Kind of give them the same
Yeah.
thrill, but maybe not on the street. Yeah.
Yeah. So we just discovered there's a track about a mile from the house where they do
Okay.
one-on-one instructive training. You don't even have to have your own bike. They literally will suit you all up and teach you how to do it. So he doesn't know that that's probably coming this summer.
Awesome. Well, I hope he doesn't listen to this podcast till after the summer. But that's exciting. I mean, I think, and the reason I'm diving into it is I think that, and it's the Wednesday at noon, so we've got the alarms going off if you hear them. It's if they tell you to go after something that you have passion for, that if you do something that you enjoy, you'll never work a day in your life, that kind of thing. So, I'm excited to hear that, and I'm a father. I'm a grandfather. I rode a motorcycle after seeing Top Gun and joining the Navy. I crashed
Yeah.
that motorcycle.
Right.
I don't want my kids on the street on a
No.
motorcycle.
No.
So, no, I hear you. An area, Chris, that I was going to lean in because you talked about being a technology person, and we are, as this podcast, trying to share things that we've learned while walking and how to be better, maybe not to bruise your shins and things like that. The world is talking about, and you brought up Claude, they're talking about AI. They're talking about what do we do next? I'm hearing perspectives of, there's a lot smaller workforce with a powerful, smart tool that they'll have. I've heard 90% unemployment. I've heard, this
Yeah.
change. Have you got any like beliefs and things that you're seeing sort of just in the ground level of where things are going?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there've been a couple things that are probably at a macro level, and then we can kind of dig into what do I think the impact is for us as people, as humans. And I think the macro level component is in the boardroom, there's this fear like if I don't do something with it, I'll get fired. And so every corporation out there is doing something, right?
Right.
Within the sector that I specifically work in, which is, as you know, telecom. There are major plays with infrastructure partners that are trying to prepare for the compute demand that's coming, and so
Right.
there's kind of an arms race in three sectors that has been even further fueled by the current administration, right? So we're pulling back some regulations. We are encouraging capital investment and public comment around that capital investment. Those
Right.
three industries particularly are like hyperscalers, data centers, energy companies, and connectivity companies. And so they've all kind of thrown down their checkbooks and said, I'll give you an example. Like the company that I'm most familiar with, AT&T, John Stankey, their CEO, recently said, we're going to spend $250 billion in the next 5 years in fiber expansion to support artificial intelligence. Folks, we've never seen that kind of like physical infrastructure capital investment in our country in its lifetime. Like nothing that even comes close to that. And so what that tells me is there's going to be all of a sudden all these cost pressures on everything else that all those companies do. So I mean, we've seen
Right.
Amazon, we've seen Microsoft, we've seen Google make these massive investments in infrastructure and then turn around and lay off 15,000 people and say, oh, we're going to automate. The reality is they haven't yet automated the processes. When we look at
Right.
so I kind of call it like the honeymoon phase that we're in right now with AI. Like we kind of love the idea that it can do some things, but we really haven't, we haven't equated the value of it yet, right? Like
Right.
what's the outcome and what's it really producing for a company and what's that return on investment? And I think one of the shameful things is we're at a stage where we're moving from generative AI to agentic AI. And your listeners may ask, well, what's the difference? Well, the difference is
Right.
generative AI, I prompt it and say, I want it to give me something, and it goes and assembles something and brings it back to you. Agentic AI is just what it sounds like. It's AI with agency. It now can
Right.
go run tasks on its own and finish the work and present it back to you. You can, if you want, you can tag it and allow it to be autonomous. It can finish the email and send it off to somebody and not even put a human in the loop. And so, are there opportunities for organizations to build agentic AI to do a lot of workloads? Absolutely, there are. Here's where I think the real problem, Rob, financially is. I met with a company, and this is very common. They're moving towards what's called citizen development, and so that means
Okay.
I take a GPT like Claude and I give it to all of my business users, not my IT users, but my business users, and say, okay, this tool will allow you to build things, and you don't have to
Right.
code. You just tell it what you want them to build. Like here's your documents, here's your information, here's your customer, your CRM, whatever.
Right.
Connect it and tell it to do whatever you want it to do. Well, the challenge with that is there's a consumption model behind that. When it goes and does that work, it is eating up what's called tokens, and those
Right.
tokens they cost money, right?
Yep.
So what has happened economically, and this is where a lot of CTOs and CIOs are going to be challenged, is they have not thought about the economic impact of what's being coined as tokenomics. So, for example, Uber this year did that very thing. They pushed out a GPT to their business users and said, go build things that help you with your job. And at the end of the first
Right.
quarter, in their earnings results, they had spent their entire annual CIO budget in 3 months because of token utilization. And so it's like, well, yeah, it's great that we're getting AI in here to help with workloads, but the money has just gone from paying a human to paying an LLM. And that that's ineffective. And so we're looking at governance, like how do you measure the impact to the corporation and really what it produces versus the cost it's going to take to build it and run it. And
Right.
I absolutely see use cases that make sense to me, but I'm a little concerned that it's because of the boardroom approach, which is I could get fired for not doing something with AI. They're throwing it out to the business units with no governance around spend, and they're not looking at the total cost of ownership. So some companies, I mean, some of them, even in my portfolio, are already $100 million over their IT budget this year based on the token utilization alone from citizen development inside their firms. So it's a nightmarish approach to the way that they're doing it. Now, I'd love to pivot to the second half of your question, which is like, what does this mean to us as humans and the work we do? And like, how's this going to help us? And I think there's a couple things that, if you, let's say you're a parent and you've got a kid like mine that's 16, that's bright, and you want them to have a future, are we able to predict, things that we can do that are going to be somewhat insulated from workloads that will be taken by artificial intelligence? And the answer is yes.
Right.
I listened to a podcast about 16 months ago that really kind of tuned me into this, and it was there are certain work streams that a robot and a computer are not prepared to do. Now, historically in the United States, we kind of look down on blue collar, gray collar type work, but they're going to be some of the last ones that get cannibalized by automation. And so I would
Right.
encourage I mean, even in our own space, when I talked about, my boss came to me a couple of weeks ago and, he's like, where should we be spending money? What should we be investing in? Where are our customers going? What, certainly we're doing all the AI stuff, but I
Right.
said, boss, our customers are spending money on building fiber and building data centers and building energy production. And we need to be involved out in the field helping them build it, because there's no robot in the next 15 years that's going to come plug a piece of fiber into the back of a router. Like
Right.
I got to send a field technician to go do that. And so I think the first thing that any young person should be looking at is, first of all, you got to develop your own expertise at something, right? Because
Right.
what we do know about LLMs is they actually, from a generative standpoint, they're 10% more accurate than the human, but that's only 80%. So 20% of the time they're still wrong. Right. So
Right.
if I ask a human question, 70% of the time they're going to get it right. And then 80% of the time an LLM is going to get it right. The problem is if the human asks the computer and it's in that 20% and they're not a specialist in that area, they're getting bad information. Because AI is still highly confident and often incorrect. And so that
It's a
20
people pleaser.
Yeah, no, I know. I
It's a
mean, some
people
of us
pleaser.
put,
It's trying to make you happy, right? It's not their,
yeah.
right?
Well,
And
most
they're
people
they,
don't know you can go into your settings of your GPT and say, "Hey, don't be nice to me, and please don't ask me a follow-up question." I mean, you can put in the settings like permanent settings around your GP to get the experience that you want. We do it internally. Like we kind of have we have an ask Everforth, but we put in like really long like instructions to say, if you look that up, you got to give me the reference for where you found it. So if I don't believe you, I know where to spot check you. So I mean, there are ways to use it, with guardrails, but you're
right.
100% right. Like it thinks it's right all the time. And I often say with my peers, being in my 50s, having been in the industry almost 30 years, like when it gives me a wrong answer, it kind of jumps out at me like that's not right.
Right.
I don't know what a 25-year-old would do with a tool like that. Like, how do they know it's wrong? Like they really don't. And so that's problematic. But as far as like what's it going to do to employment? I do think that white collar jobs are going to be significantly impacted. Even like business analysts, strategy consultants, obviously software developers were the first ones wiped off the map. So
Paralegals is what I've heard.
yeah, white collar really needs to be concerned. So if you're in one of those trades or that's your skill set, I'm not saying you don't have a future. I'm just saying you need to be aware or even studying what is automation and what is it
Right.
capable of, kind of in this third wave where we're really pushing hard into agentic. So I mean, it's not that it's not great. I mean, I've got one use case for one of my carriers. It's a 9-figure a year problem that we're going to solve with automation. So it's not that these things aren't good.
Right.
It's just they're going to have an impact on certain workloads, and people need to understand that.
I think that I don't know who they are, but I think the people that have controlled the technology have I don't know if there's a nefarious sort of reason behind it, but they've been very not forthcoming as you've described with the cost, the tokenization side.
Yeah.
I see as an example. So I haven't been working since February. I do quite a bit of spaces and these podcasts, and I've been interacting with a lot of people, and I've been talking to a lot of people that do a lot with AI. And it's like one of the most common things that I hear, Chris, is I ran out of credits. What do you mean you've run out of credits? Like I've run out of credits. I have to wait another 4 hours before I can ask another question. I'm like, well, just go to the next package. Well, I already did. It was, I'd have to wait, 4 hours, but now I'm only having to wait this and I've whatever. It's like, did they put something out that there isn't really a good ROI? Like it's this super
Yeah.
expensive technology that nobody freaking would ever use if they actually had to, pay for it. And yet they're kind of starting to slowly turn on these, as you
I
said.
think the business model is so immature, Rob, that
Okay.
I don't know that we know how to solve for that. I'll give you a perfect example. My boss was going to a huge conference this week, and you know how that works. They're very guarded on like the customer list and who's going to be there. And
Right.
but to add value to the conference, once you registered and you could download their app, they hard coded the attendee list inside the mobile app. So my boss was smart enough to like just take screenshots of every single, page of the directory and download those 45 images. And he's like, I really just need a spreadsheet because we've only got 5 of us there. We need to divide and conquer, get in front
Right.
of the right people. And he's like, but I'm getting on my plane in 2 hours. Will you or your team see if you can do something with this? And so I'm like, sure, boss, just share the folder with me. And so I load it all into Claude, and Claude is struggling with it. Some of the images had 20,000 pixels per image. And it's just like, and eventually Claude's just like, I can't handle the workload. It's not there. And so I get with one of my folks and I'm like, okay, Eli, here's the task. Boss needs this by tonight. Let's roll our sleeves up and figure this out. And he's like, share screen with me. And he looks at my version of Claude, which is an enterprise oriented one that is
Right.
capped to $35 of usage per month. So once I hit that cap, my IT organization says, okay, go find another tool. We're not paying for any more of that. So let me point out the problem with this. So
Your
my
boss
guys,
asked you to fix something and you're now
yeah,
limited
and
by
I'm
your
limited by
boss.
IT. I'm limited by IT. But here's where the business problem presents itself, Rob, is I get with one of my employees who has a personal version of Claude and he has paid for the max licensing. It's called Claude Code 20X. So
Okay.
he has millions of tokens he can use in a month, but he's probably paying $200 a month to have access to it. So we take the same images, we load it into Claude Code with his 20X license. It builds 4 bots on the fly. So it basically builds 4 agents inside the code to break down the images. It took like an hour and a half. It used 2.6 million tokens and created a spreadsheet with over 7,000 contacts on it in an hour and a half. And so we started having this debate last night around. So my enterprise is thinking I'm piloting and testing Claude from Anthropic, but they've only given me a tool that's a third as powerful as the most powerful tool Anthropic has, which literally will build you an army of developers on the fly. So then the
Wow.
question becomes, well, if the business model is immature, so is our evaluation of it,
Right.
right? So I didn't even bring in a tool that could have accomplished that and said, hey, boss, like there's some really good things we can do here. And if we have access to even very complex data, there's muscle here that's so beyond what we can comprehend. But we don't even the evaluators don't have access because the immaturity of the business model, Rob. And
Right.
I think that's you're 100% right. Like the people that have created it are still struggling with like, how do we get people to use it? How do we license it? What's the value? I mean, it's the wild freaking west. And I think that there's an expectation and a reality, and we're still going to hit that drop off. We're going to drop where people are like, it's not working like I thought it would. But when we unpack those use cases and we unpack the mistakes that were made, I think we're going to see problems all over the place. We're going to see corporations that didn't know what they had their hands on. We're going to have people that knew the problem but didn't have access to the team with the tools. Like I just think it's a lot of mess to go through. I don't think we're going to get there quickly. But we as individuals, I've got at least 15 more minutes. So what I'll say is the thing that concerns me as a practitioner is we are unleashing a set of tools into the marketplace unlike anything we've seen before. So what do we do with that bad actor that pays for his 20x Claude code license, and what does he point that tool towards?
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's more concerning than the economic impact. I think I am quite concerned when I look at defense contracting, when I look at automation of capabilities that are moving so fast. We look at what the Ukrainians have been able to do with drone manufacturing and layer artificial intelligence into that. Like, it isn't just, cyber warfare, it is actual warfare. And those are the things probably keep me up more at night than the actual like economic aspect of it in commercial businesses. So I'm kind of split minded between what do I tell my kids they should be preparing for? What should I tell my customers we should be preparing for? But part of me is like, what should we as societies be preparing for? And these computing capabilities are alarmingly powerful. I mean, just to sit there last night and have my coworkers share a screen and watch the code build itself an army of bots on the fly, and you could see each one of them churning the data. You're like, that's powerful. That's some crazy stuff.
I'm only using it in a personal level where I'm taking 2D images and I'm having to make 3D images, things like that. I've taken some still photos and I've had to make some videos. But I'm like you. I've been just recently exposed to, well, we're used to warfare being these $1 million Tomahawk missiles that we watched during Desert Storm. And now it's a $250 drone, like you said. Like there's
Yeah.
The economies of scale of warfare have changed to where it's like, if I still have that $5 billion budget and I can go get 3 million drones, I can go I can go do this thing that I
I
think
can
some
be
of
a
us have.
headache for a long
Yeah,
time. Yeah.
yeah, it
Yeah.
scared the shit out of me when I got done. I was like, I wasn't even
Yeah.
thinking about this.
Yeah. So my father was involved in air defense and certainly know the economics of a Patriot missile. And those are 4 million a pop, and we're shooting down $20,000 drones with $4 million missiles. That's not a military problem. That's a math problem. So it's like, yeah, I mean, it's I don't want to veer too much in the political lane, but do we have the right people solving the right problems? Like, I don't know. I mean, it's a little scary when you realize the landscapes have changed, and data and information is probably the most powerful asset that any nation owns. And so, who our alliances with, what control or influence do those companies have that control those things like Anthropic? We should be concerned about that, because there's so many capabilities that could be unleashed. I mean, if you think about just image analysis, right? I
Yep.
mean, if we can take images of all these other countries in the world thousands of times over a day and allow Anthropic to help us understand what's going on in all these geographies in the world that a human could never process on their own, or unleash armies of bots to analyze it and look at things and predict things, like the landscape of geopolitics and economics and even our daily lives is about to be upended, probably unlike anything we could comprehend. And it's not a scare tactic. I mean, it's here. And I think those of us that understand it and embrace it, and try to help explain it and educate, I think that's our role right now, is education. Like, let's not be ignorant about what it is capable of. Let's not make it out to be something overly scary, because to me, the technology is not what's scary. It's the human that's still the scary element to me. Right. I mean, history has proven it's people that are evil, not technology. And so I think that knowing how it works and keeping it out of the hands of the wrong people, or keeping an eye on the wrong people, is the right approach. Not let's not fearmonger AI. Let's remember what history taught us.
That is a great point, and I agree. I think fear mongering is not good, and is definitely not something that I want to do on my show or my program.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm like you. I do I do want to know. Like, I want to know the perspective. I want to understand the capabilities. And the podcast I was listening to used exactly the same point you just said. He's like, it's not AGI or any of this super intelligence that's going to be harmful. It's the bad human using this powerful tool that's going to be the danger. And yeah, we just need to be aware and not ignorant, know what's going on.
Yeah.
I'd say,
What did Jerry Seinfeld say recently? He said, we're dumb enough to know we need artificial intelligence, smart enough to build it, and unsure whether it was the right thing to do.
I just see that. It's good. And it's the funniest things are usually the ones that are the closest to the truth. And that's why I think
Yeah.
I get the humor in that is, yeah, we've now got this superhuman thing that can take all the past knowledge and the argument that I was listening to the people on the podcast talk about were, how are we gonna, if we're interacting with this intelligence that's smarter than any of the rest of us, like, how does that work? Like you said, like, how do I know it's telling me the truth? How do I know that I'm getting good information? And I don't know. It's part of the reason why, as I said, I'm doing the podcast and doing the spaces. I'm a doxed human that's over 50 years old that has the same socials on all socials, because I want, in this crazy ass world, I want people to be able to see this, like, and know that, we're both beard connoisseurs,
That's
right?
right. We're real.
And we're real,
Yeah. No, it's very
right?
true.
I'm embracing the flaws. Like, that's, there was another one of these artists I'm talking about is like, AI is too perfect. Like, it does these things too perfect. And we're going to, as humans, seek back the flawed human experience, and my last bullet point would be what we do from a sales function. There's no one that I've been able to understand or find that believes that you will see a computer behave like we do, like have that interpersonal and be able to, really truly have a handle. Like, sales will always be, and I'm saying this and I could be wrong tomorrow, but sales will always be human with possibly augmented tools.
I think
I don't
that's
know. What do
because
you think?
I think it's because we've always known that people don't buy products, they buy trust. They buy trust that what they're spending on is going to deliver what their expectations were. And I think when you fundamentally remove the human element of that, is there really trust? I mean, I guess the answer in some cases are, if I'm going to go buy a Coca-Cola from a vending machine, like that historically has never had a human in the loop, right? Even from when we were kids and it was a quarter a piece. And,
Right.
so are there transactions that don't require humans in the transaction? The answer is yes. And I also think that's because we semantically use this term as sales ubiquitously across any kind of financial transaction between a customer and a business. And I think that's a misnomer. I think our English language fails us. I think what you're talking about is when we're consulting someone on how to solve a problem, I think
Okay.
I think there'll never be a human removed from that loop. So I think that's the challenge, is understanding what kind of transaction are we talking about. And I think if it involves trust beyond, I'm getting a Coca-Cola out of this machine, and I don't need a lot of trust to know that it was made by Coca-Cola.
Right.
Versus I'm going to go through a business transformation, and I'm going to lay 20% of my people off because I need to reinvest that capital to chase a new market. I want to bounce some ideas off of some living, breathing human beings before I do that. So I don't disagree with you in that respect. Now, I think the tools are going to blow your mind away. I can't speak of some of the things that we're working on, but I know even in looking at the context of CRMs and acquiring customer information, and the context that I can put around every data element of an enterprise and every contact within that enterprise, merged with their business priorities, their financial pressures, their shareholders, the
Right.
marketplace, and our capabilities. Yeah, we're going to be able to really, it's like taking the salesperson out of that Ford Mustang and putting them in an F-35. Like, it's going to change the way they work, but they're
Right.
going to have, and we often, just to challenge ourselves, we use the analogy with like Iron Man's Jarvis. Can we create Jarvis for that consultant, where he,
Mhm.
it's ambient, it's sentient, it knows what's going on, it's under his control, but it doesn't always even need to be prompted. We're looking at triggering interfaces. It's pretty advanced, Rob, to think that you're right. We're not removing the human, but we're going to drop them in F-35 and get them out of driving the vehicle around town. So, that's just an analogy, but it
Right.
isn't. It's under construction. The tools are now within our reach. It's now about building it properly, understanding the economics, measuring the outcomes, because we are concerned about return on investment. We're not going to go buy the most expensive LLM and the most expensive data orchestration tools because we don't think, our company's going to go, what do I get in return for that? One more deal a
Right.
year? What's the economics around that if I spend 3 trillion tokens trying to put that data together for a salesperson? So I think that,
Right.
they're great questions to ask. But I would also say that there's going to be a lot of transactions that they've removed the human from the loop. I saw a video recently of fast food places in Japan that were totally automated, robotics and everything. Like not a
Zero
single
human.
zero human making hot dogs, and every hot dog was cooked perfectly. Every French fry
Right.
was salted perfectly. It was like, okay,
No
fair enough.
attitude. Yeah. No.
Yeah,
No
no
attitude from
attitude.
the. Yeah.
That's right. That's
Correct
right.
change every time. Yeah.
No dropping the loose hair in your food.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there will be a lot of humanless transactions, but there won't be a lot of strategic decisions made without humans involved. And I think
Right.
that's
All
where,
right.
if you're consulting or you're helping people solve problems, you're still going to be in the loop.
I appreciate that. And on that note, I know with timing, I appreciate you being here. We've been trying to come up with like a see the timer has gone off. We know that it's up. I don't know if that's Ronnie or is that you? Is that you?
That's me. Yeah. My border collie
Yeah.
has decided his nap is over.
Yeah, the nap is over, and I'm not at home, so you don't get to hear mine. We were going to start a segment where we ask just kind of a last minute question, since this is a conversation about being better and not doing things. Is there anything in relocating to a new place, if and there's quite a few guests I'm friends with, and younger kids that are looking at moving to different places in the country, and is there like a first thing on the list? Like, is it weather? Is it landscape? Is there a like top 3 things that you would sort of as a human say, hey, these are the things I needed to see when I got there to make sure that this is where I wanted to be?
I think it really has to do with experiences.
Okay.
Are there things that you and your loved ones can share in doing together that build memories? I think that experience are worthwhile investments. I think our things are less valuable, so I would really answer that, Rob, with what can we do together that builds memories? And for us, the difference between Raleigh and Oklahoma City was Oklahoma City, you had to drive 8 hours to do anything kind of cool, and here you can go
Right.
30 minutes it's 2 hours to the beach, it's 2 hours to the mountains. It's, there's 100 historical sites within a 2 or 3 hour drive, and just a lot of small, quaint villages. So for us, it's like every weekend, it's easy to just hop in the car and go see something we've never seen that's not far away and come back to our own home in bed at night, or, spend a long weekend down at the beach, in an Airbnb on Oak Island. So I think for me, it's about experiences. So pick a
Okay.
place that interests you, that you're able to get out and spend time together and build memories. That'd be my feedback.
That is perfect advice. I love it. I think I've been saying that for quite a few years. You get wise when you get older that it's about experiences. It's not about the
Hmm.
car or the cool things. It is
Hmm.
definitely awesome. Hey, I hope you had a good time and you'll come back. It's been a great conversation. And we're going to continue to try and get with carriers that have as good coverage as we can
Yeah.
for these
No,
things.
thanks for the opportunity, Rob. I've had a lot of people tell me I should be doing podcasting. I don't want to run one, but I'm happy to come in and share some thoughts with you. It's always good to catch up with you, Rob. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you as well. Thanks a lot, Chris. Take care.
All right. See you.